What's going on, y'all? So, in continuation to the whole Charlie Kirk assassination, which is beyond fucked up that happened to him, regardless of how you may feel about him, it turns out that a lot of us were led to believe that it was some old white guy that did it. Nah, that was not the shooter. That was not the shooter at all. They found the actual shooter. His name is Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old Utah native. And I got the video of Fox Now reporting on this, and we'll get into that. Before I hit play on this video, make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, if so, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a new video. Other than that, let's get into this video.
As we are learning, the suspect in custody on this Friday in connection with the assassination of Charlie Kirk is a 22-year-old from Utah. Law enforcement officials confirming that to the Associated Press. Authorities identifying the suspect as Tyler Robinson. Now, a lot to discuss, and as we continue this thorough and detailed coverage, I want to transition and bring into the conversation none other than Tim Rebele. He previously worked for the Secret Service for 22 years on the Presidential Protective Detail. Tim, a pleasure having you join us here on Live Now from Fox. Hello to you.
Hello to you. Thanks for having me.
So a lot to discuss. Tim, let's first go through the latest from that press conference. Viewers, some just might be tuning in. What do we know? We heard from FBI Director Kash Patel saying that it took the community. It was a group effort. If you see something, say something. 33 hours it took to get to this press conference.
Yeah, listening to the press conference and, following it along from the time this incident happened, it was, like Kash Patel said, it was great police work. And you can't do this without the community. And you're so right. The see something, say something. It works every time. So it sounds like a great investigation from all partners, state, local, and federal.
We heard from Utah's Governor Spencer Cox in that press conference saying that a suspect's family member actually turned him in. We're also hearing that he was joined alongside a family friend. Let's discuss that, because as the images were circulating, we had images from TMZ, we had images from the campus. We saw the suspected shooter climbing the side of the roof to get up there. There were so many people who were speculating who this person could be, many people not knowing that it would be a family member who would come out to turn this person in.
Yeah, so a lot of these cases, just mass shooters in general, school shooters, or in this instance, most of these individuals, they have the term, we hear it all the time, but it's leakage. I don't know, but I'd be safe to say, and they mentioned it briefly in the news conference, where there may have been some leakage in him talking about it and showing this hatred towards Mr. Kirk prior to actually committing the incident. And I'm glad that the family members helped turn him in after the fact, but I wish they were a little bit more proactive, and maybe this never would have happened.
Now, I heard that his father, this guy's father, saw photos of the alleged shooter. Didn't quite know if it was him, but then he realized that it kind of looked like his son, and then he confronted his son about it. And him being hesitant to tell his dad the truth, which is what led to his father turning him in to the FBI.
As you say that you wish it never would have happened, some somber words from Utah's governor towards the end, and I want to quote him. For many people, it stuck out. He says, "Is this the end of a dark chapter or the beginning of a darker chapter in history? With your Secret Service expertise, unfortunately, this isn't the first type of tragedy you have covered, but so many viewers on the edge of their seats wondering, is this the end or the beginning of a darker chapter?" As Utah's governor so eloquently put it.
Yes, he brought up a couple good points, talking about the 60s, which were a little bit before my time as well. But, one of the most violent times as far as assassinations go. And with my experience, we've seen a lot of violent events, towards this country. But like you said, most importantly, we have a choice. We individually have a choice whether or not how we write this next chapter. And hopefully people take to heart exactly what he said and make that choice to turn to talking about differences and choosing towards nonviolence.
Tim, this morning, a lot of eyes are on the weapon, even the bullet. We are learning from authorities in that press conference that a bullet had the words "Hey Fascist" written on it. For many people, they are looking back to that tragedy that unfolded at Annunciation, a Catholic school and church.
They really had the term "Hey Fascist" on there? Wow. Just someone who wants to have a discussion is labeled a fascist. Wow. These people are absolute lunatics, I tell you.
Where we were learning that some of the magazines from that suspected gunman had words written on it, some of them political, some full of hatred. Paint the picture for us, please. Set the tone of what's going on in America today.
Yeah, and it's something that nobody really talks about is how we are trained as Secret Service agents. And there's something called the pathway to violence. And everything starts with a grievance. And obviously, the shooting in Minnesota that you referenced and the shooting that occurred in Utah on Wednesday, there was some sort of grievance. We just don't know what that grievance is right now. We could probably try to figure out, obviously, what that grievance is. But everybody goes from a grievance to an ideation to planning, research, probing, then execution. And the key is, as Secret Service, we were taught, is to get people off that pathway to violence. And that's what I'm talking about. These individuals show a grievance, and they're writing on the shell casings and they're writing manifestos. We don't know exactly if this individual had a manifesto or not, but they're providing information prior to their acts or the execution of the violent act. And that's where we need to be better as a country. We need to see something, say something. As a friend, I don't know for certain, but there was probably some sort of leakage along his pathway to violence where he had the grievance to the ideation, the planning, the research before he executed. I don't know, for instance, but I'd be safe to say that he probably researched that site prior to committing the act on Wednesday. He probably did a dry run. He drove. He found out where to park in the neighborhood. He just didn't do that on a whim. So
yeah, I agree with him 100%. Excuse me. Like, he found out that Charlie Kirk was coming to his state at a particular college that's probably not that far from him, and thought to himself, man, I hate this man so much. I hate this man's guts. I hate everything about him. This is my one opportunity to finally silence him forever. And he jumped at that. He got everything he needed to pull it off. And he succeeded. He did exactly what he wanted to do. And now he's about to pay the price because he probably thought he would get away with it. I'm sure since he was able to get back home without anybody really seeing him at first. But then, him being on camera, finding out what type of shoes he had on, what color shirt he had on, what design was on the shirt, everything came out. I mean, that old guy was just a distraction. It was just a distraction. At least in my opinion. Right? And once they found this Tyler dude, it was a wrap. Thanks to his father pretty much, taking a look at the images being put out there and taking a look at his son. It's like, hey, this dude looks awful lot like you. He put two to two together. Yeah, he planned this from the jump.
We all need to be better as Americans, and if something we hear doesn't sound right, we need to talk about it, and then obviously talk to the authorities, state, local, or federal.
Yeah, Tim, as you discuss a potential manifesto, we did learn in that press conference that the family is saying that the suspect became more, quote, political recently as it relates to the current climate, as it relates to MAGA, as it relates to, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Are you seeing more of that in your line of work for those people that might not agree with what's happening in America, so they think they can take what's going on into their own hands literally to potentially make a change, even if it turns deadly?
Yes, unfortunately, and the rhetoric on both sides, it justifies in people's mind that they could take a violent act to end whatever they may disagree with. So from the highest levels of this government, we all need to just put our differences aside and stop with this rhetoric. We could do it. You and I can do it. But I really hope, most importantly, our elected officials in and around the country can stop with this rhetoric on both sides, every part of the aisle, and we get back to some source of just humanity here, and so these people don't feel empowered to carry out these acts.
If you ask me, I think he was listening to a lot of like deeply leftist rhetoric because they've been the main ones pushing for violence towards the right for quite some time. And I guess a lot of them thought that people actually weren't going to do that. I mean, hell, you can find clips of that shit of a whole compilation of leftist politicians and, congressmen, congresswomen encouraging people to get violent with people on the opposing side for not agreeing with them. I'm not saying it can't happen on the right towards the left, because it absolutely can happen. But more of this has been coming from the left. Like, let's be for real here.
Tim, with your Secret Service experience, and I want you to detail it for us, for maybe the average person that might not understand what it takes to carry out safety and security, not only for the person that might be speaking at these type of political or school events, but also for those that are attending, in this case, students and faculty on the campus. So if we look back in time, we look back to the political season at that time, former President Donald Trump, we remember that tragic day where someone scaled a roof and then shot him in the ear, and so many people posing that question: how did this happen? How did Secret Service miss this? How did law enforcement not know to be on the roof already so that this doesn't happen? Months later, we are now in 2025, and we see the worst has happened to Charlie Kirk. It wasn't an ear. He lost his life. Are you seeing that strides are being made to make sure this doesn't happen again, or are you seeing a stop point to where people are just assuming that it's already done? Maybe law enforcement, they aren't all on the same page. Paint that picture for us, please, because a lot of unanswered question as it relates to how did this happen in the first place?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, I'm retired from the Secret Service, so I don't want to speak to what they're doing this at this time. But I know that they've learned from that horrible experience in Butler, Pennsylvania, and they're only going to be stronger moving forward. They've been around for 160 years, and for the next hundreds of years, they're going to be even stronger. But from a level of like an individual like Mr. Kirk, he is protected by typically retired federal agents or local law enforcement. But what needs to happen is the holistic approach of a good security advance, and that starts with threat intelligence. And an individual like Mr. Kirk, you conduct an open source threat intelligence summary, and you can tell that the threat is high. Then that dictates how you approach these sites. And we're looking at some footage here of Utah Valley University, and you need to conduct a site assessment. And I've never been there, but there's high ground everywhere. You spend some time, a day, a week prior, and you create that site assessment. Then you create an advanced document for the actual visit. And everything we've been told is they had 6 security officers from the university there. Then obviously Mr. Kirk had his own detail. But for that magnitude of that crowd and the high ground exposure and a lot of the vulnerabilities there, the proper techniques weren't put in place, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, to mitigate that threat. And it just goes back to being proactive and doing the work before the event actually occurs.
Yep. I couldn't have said that better myself, because even with the amount of security, he really should have had more, because at like a guy like him who wants to have a conversation with people with opposing viewpoints, because you have a lot of people out here who believe words equal violence. It's just, I'm not necessarily saying I agree with that, but it's a lot of people that think like that. And a lot of people out here are not thinking logically. They're thinking very emotionally. They're moving very emotionally. They don't want to think rationally anymore, because their feelings matter more than what actual facts are. That's the unfortunate part. And it causes people to like this some bitch right here that did what he did, to get a sniper rifle, go to a vulnerable point that the security and other police and you know probably didn't think of like going to. He got to a point where he can not be noticed or anything like that. Get up there, set his gun up, bow, and pretty much kill Charlie Kirk. So yeah, there probably should have been a better job at searching the perimeter, looking for any suspicious activity, and neutralizing this motherfucker. But right before he was even able to maybe even set up the gun, long before he was even able to pull the trigger. And in my personal opinion, now I could be wrong. I think that could have saved Charlie Kirk's life, and he'd still be touring the country, going from college to college, talking about or having the conversations with other, people's opposing viewpoints and this, that, and the third. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and he's no longer with us. His family, his entire family's lives have been altered completely. His daughter, I think he has two daughters. They will pretty much have to grow up without him. His wife is now a widow, and this changes a lot of things right now. It's even, and I'm gonna do a future video on this. It's even caused people who have been leftist, Democrat, liberal their whole lives to distance themselves, not necessarily be Republican, conservative, right leaning, nah, not necessarily, but just distance themselves from the left because this right here was the nail in the coffin. They were like, okay, I can't rock with the left anymore. I am done with y'all. This has gone way too far. Y'all have completely lost it. And I'm glad that more people are waking up and just distancing themselves from the left. Some have just flat out gone to the right and said, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Okay, they can do that. But some just said, okay, I'm not going to necessarily be a right winger, but I'll just distance myself from the left. I'll just be a political atheist. I'll just be an independent or something because I am so done with this. That's what I've heard a lot of people say due to this whole thing happening. And I cannot blame them one bit. And with that being said, I'm going to end the video right there. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the Linktree link in my description so you can support me on other platforms, as well as support me directly without paying the YouTube tax through Cash App and PayPal. If you choose to do so, thank you. I really, really do appreciate it. And for that, I will shout you out in my next video if you choose to do so. And with that being said, I want all y'all to be safe out there. Make sure you check on your loved ones. Tell them you love them, or just call them just to say what's up. Call them just to let them know, like, hey, I was thinking about you. I just want to make sure everything's cool. You know what I'm saying? You just have no idea how much they'll appreciate that. Till next time, y'all, have a good one and be safe out there.